The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
What? Good up? Giddy up. Welcome to Third Podcast, the #1 show where police meets society and culture. Bringing you 4 hot shows a week, starting with True Crime Tuesday with Andrea Upland, myself, and followed up by Last Call with Dead Leg Media, giving you all the other news, everything else you need to know so that you don't sound like an asshole. First responder to your civilian friends. We're giving you something else to talk about other than dead babies and domestic violence, followed by Comm Center with Jonathan Bates, led by Drew Breezy. And then, of course, Friday's flagship show with Drew Breezy and myself, where we break down a serious case, the biggest cases in the news. So bringing you lots of content, all first responder heavy. And today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Sleep so good, it's scary. And you're going to need a ghost bed now more than ever because it's hard to get a good night's sleep when there's news like this. A lot of times on this show, I like to bring the fun, flirty news that's out there, talk about the Grammys, talk about some of the other things that are fun to talk about, but there's just so much political news in today's climate that I cannot ignore it. There's so much. It's almost as if that it's the end of the world as we know it. And I don't know about you, but I feel fine. I've written a song and it goes like this. It's the end of the world as we know it.
It's
right? I wrote that song. Yep. And
the world
as we know. I wrote that song with everything that's going on today. So hope you like it. It's probably on Spotify already. Look it up, but I wrote that song. Lots going on. And if you want to like and support the show, if you want to see the show get bigger, have more meetups like the meetup that we have coming up on April 12th and just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, people have already booked their hotel rooms. We got several folks coming in from out of town, as well as people that are already in town. Lots of first responders. We've got live music. We've got all the things. Starts at Instill Distilling Company on April 12th, Wednesday night, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then at 8 to 10, we have a private thing for everybody at the studio. There'll be some hors d'oeuvres, some drinks. You'll be able to tour the studio, hang out with guests like Drew Breezy from Florida, Dead Leg Media from Colorado, Jonathan Bates from fucking North Dakota or Canada, wherever he's from, Andrea Upland from Wilmington. So all the guests all the hosts of all these other shows will be here in town. You'll be able to do some questioning and answering. If you want to go that extra mile, become a paid member on our YouTube channel. But the biggest way to help is a free way to help. And that is simply by going and leaving a 5-star rating and review. Matter of fact, for this Friday, we've got to talk about all the new ratings and reviews. It's going to be a lot. But this is a live show to our paid chat. It's a private show, so only they can see me and my beautiful mullet this morning. And we're joined by several people in the live chats, and we really appreciate you guys. Guys like David, Jay, Fulkinator, Drew Breezy, Tactical Dude. And I'm not going to go back through the whole list of people. Bone Cold Fleas, Austin Wilcrape. But we got a hell of a show for you today. Chock full of news. We got some shit from the Epstein trial. Who are we going to war with? Are we going to war with China? Are we going to war with Russia? Are we going to war with fucking aliens? I don't know. But I'm going to find out today through Dead Leg Media what exactly the hell is going on out there, because it's so much, man. Also, everybody's a newscaster just like we are. It seems like everybody is diving into the news. And the news is getting harder to find. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how hard it is to find news that isn't just regurgitated the same thing from one source. It's getting very, very murky out there. And it just feels like there's somebody else's hand at work feeding everybody information. And I want to get into that a little bit. Also, we got to talk about this new Epstein list that's allegedly out that may not really be out. We got some classified documents that are spinning around. We got an indictment for Donald Trump that's coming down the pipeline. There was so much stuff. We got, well, of course, all these alien spy balloons. And, we don't want to forget about that. We got the Nordstrom pipeline that was blown up by the USA. And then also we've got a ballet director who rubbed animal feces into one of his critics' faces and has a public apology. So there's just so much to talk about today. And I don't even know if 1 hour is going to fit all of this. And Dead Leg, one, first of all, happy Valentine's Day, one day after. And then two, what is going on
It's one of those where we were just talking about before we came on. We don't know we're not supposed to be looking at. What's the distraction? What's not the distraction? Because it seems like there's just everything all at once. Just throw it all at the fan and see what sticks. It's kind of crazy.
It's getting very weird out there. You know, we're a police podcast show. So like when I break down a case, right, I can go and find evidence of this case. I can find sources of this case so I don't misspeak, especially in these like high profile George Floyd style cases that we've broken down or Breonna Taylor. Matter of fact, with the Breonna Taylor case, we brought Sergeant Mattingly on, the man who shot and killed Breonna Taylor. Like we had him on for 2.5 hours. We did 2 episodes. When we had the Dylan Rounds case, we had the private investigator that was on the ground looking for Dylan Rounds. We had him on the show. We go a great distance with the breakdowns to find all of the evidence so that we don't sound like an asshole. But now that we've done Last Call, which we thought was an important show because first responders don't need to always talk about first responders. Shit, they need to know something else. And with all the first responders not listening to mainstream media, they have nothing else to talk about over the weekend. And so that's why we formed this show. But what has become a fun, flirty show has almost become an impossible show to do because, one, there's a lot of people doing stuff like this, but 2, there is no evidence. You cannot track these sources back anywhere. I don't know where the news got to where you cannot find a source, but I remember back in the day that there was a source to all news, and then you could go and verify that source. We have no sources now.
There's nobody willing to put their neck out there to be held accountable for what they're saying either. So that's the other part, because you can just run on an anonymous source and say, oh, someone said this, and that becomes fact because anonymous people said it.
Right. And what you have now is TikTok, right, which is Chinese spyware, which is giving you news that the Chinese want to confuse you with, right? And we're all cool with that. We're still on it all day long, even though we know that like we're helping out the bad guys. We should stop. Stop doing the TikTokies, especially if you're in uniform of any kind. If you're in the service, if you're actively in the military, you should not be on TikTok, period. Point blank period. If you're an active police officer and you're not using it for police purposes, get the fuck off. And police purposes is not building your personal clout and making yourself like a cool guy, a cop that's found his niche. Like save that shit for when you're done being a cop. Focus on cop shit, make the world a better place. And if you disagree with me,
on the TikTok a couple of years ago, there was a covert base that was outed because of a GPS locator thing on a fitness app.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. There was like 40 or 50 contractors or whatever, and they were in this area, and this is where they ran every day, and they put it back together, and they figured out that that's what we were doing. We had a covert area and where we weren't supposed to be at from a fitness app.
There was cases in Afghanistan where they were tracking people with thumb drives that had GPS trackers on their thumb drives. And so they were able to see where these thumb drives are being put into computers and tracking it, I guess, via satellite. I mean, I don't know technology, but they were blowing up like precise internet labs on bases. And they figured out, at the end of the day, that they were using thumb drives that these soldiers were buying off of the local Afghan cleaner guy. Anyway, my point being is that there's a lot of guys out there on these TikToks that are doing the same thing we're doing right now, where they're saying like, this is the news and this is what we saw. But the problem is that they're saying it as if they have a source, or as if they have some kind of information that solidifies the news. And what I've done is I take those stories and then I go and I look for the source and I look for the evidence behind that story before I go and regurgitate it to you. Even if it's from somebody that I trust on social media, like DC Drano, which, some of his stuff is not fact checked. A lot of it's not. I found a lot of flaws in some of his things. Still like him, still like the guy. I don't want to be that guy. So I'm telling you right now, today, a lot of these things that we're going to talk about are things that we hear on the news, on mainstream media. They're things that are being put out. And I think it's very important that we need to understand that this might not be the real news. This might be a distraction. Could be anything. We don't know. And there aren't any real journalists. Journalism is dead because they can't source any of the journalism. I think a real journalist tells you how exactly he got that information, where he got it from, and how it is sourced. We don't do that anymore. Now it's an anonymous leak. Well, through an anonymous leak, through an anonymous source. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me, because now we can just say that everything is from an anonymous source, and then we have carte blanche, right?
And then you've got this segment has been brought to you by
Pfizer.
And we're not going to talk about them today. Or this segment is brought to you by the FBI. So we're gonna ignore all the Twitter stuff or this. It's just it's to the point where they don't talk about anything because they're afraid of losing the money, and they will lose the money. And it's plain as day, but people just it's hard to believe what you're seeing in front of your own eyes.
It's insanity right now, because we know that the Russians said that their master plan was confusion, and to confuse the news and to make things appear what's real and what's not. And it's really what's going on right now. I don't think we shot down a UFO. However, the news is spinning it in such a way, because it's salacious and sensational, that we could have shot down a UFO. The Pentagon does not want to give out what they know about this balloon, because they don't want China to know what they know or don't know. When they say that they can't recover the balloon, of course we know that it's a lie. We know that if we can, we can track down the craziest things. They of course have recovered that balloon. And of course it is a balloon. I'll tell you right now, it's a fucking balloon or a drone of some sort. But they're not going to tell you that because they don't want China to know that we know. It's just like any good police case. We don't want the criminal to know. We don't want the serial killer to know that we have X amount of evidence, so that when it comes down to court, we can slam dunk it by saying, boom, blammo. How did you know, that there was DNA here? We didn't tell anybody. So that proves that things like that. So, but the news has spun it in such a way that now we all are believing that there are extraterrestrial UFOs flying about. And it's the biggest discussion. On real mainstream news, we're talking about, are these UFOs? Oh, the government has just now not confirmed that it's not a UFO. Yeah, but they didn't confirm that it was a UFO either. So shut the fuck up about it. Like it's not a UFO, right? It's not a UFO. It's not from outer space, right?
There's probably, I'd say that there's the likelihood of us seeing stuff that we can't explain is very high. Also the likelihood of other countries, and because if you got to think, we have not been in like a real big war in a long time. Like the last time that we've had to do something was around the 40s, was when we dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima, and that was the last time of, hey, this is what we got, don't make us use it.
Right.
So we have no clue what we have or what we don't have. And that's the same thing with everybody else. It's a big bluff game, that mutually assured destruction thing. But it's to think that we don't have some of this weird technology is almost, it's ignorant.
Or that we're floating balloons over and blaming it on China just so we can have like a legit way to impose sanctions and start kind of like a proxy war or some kind of Cold War with other countries. Like, I mean, we don't even know, but like, yeah, here we go with the news speculating on so many things with no source behind it whatsoever. And like, where's your evidence? Where's your Chinese evidence? Like, oh, well, you could see Chinese writings on the spy balloons. Okay, well, like, show us the Chinese writings on the spy balloons. Show us, and instead what we do is we find this like most salacious part of the news, and then we expel on it and then not back it up with any kind of substance or evidence. And I think that the times are getting really, really crazy. The fact that, you have Nancy Pelosi saying that the most dangerous thing that we face right now are are letters, classified letters that are held by Donald Trump. And when the anchor says, well, like, what is this? Like, what kind of, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what is on those papers. The fact that he has classified information as Mar-a-Lago home, where spies could have access to it because they know he lives in Mar-a-Lago, is of the most critical. Like, she just went on and on about how bad this is. The same guy asked her the same question about the stuff hidden at Biden's son's cabin. And she says, well, I mean, we're not going to really know the totality or the seriousness of this until we see what was on the letter, see what was on the documents. Okay, but we don't mention that you don't think that the spies are a lot more in tune with Hunter Biden. Like Hunter Biden is the guy that left his laptop full of all sorts of shit, just left it. He's the one that left his credentials, his credentials to get into the White House. He left them on an airplane. He also left his FBI credentials that he's not even supposed to have in a stolen rental car or a misused rental car that he abandoned, that he also left his crack pipe and remnants of cocaine and the wrappers and baggies of all the cocaine he did after he went missing and was last spotted in a homeless camp. Like, you don't think that's where all the spies are going?
Didn't he leave a gun someplace too?
I don't know about that one. It wouldn't shock me. But I know that he rented a car that he never returned, and then he just left it out in the Arizona desert and abandoned it after it ran out of gas.
Yeah, I'm trying to fact check myself in real time, and of course, just like everything else, you can't research anything anymore because it's all, we got to spin it, and you got all, like, the first 5 articles, it's literally exact same thing.
Yeah, and that's the problem with doing any research for any of this news, is that you get regurgitated. Like, did the Jeffrey Epstein list get released? And all you get is fact checker from this, fact checker from that. Well, like, we already don't believe the fact checkers. Like, we already know that the fact checkers are liars. They fact checked tons of stuff during COVID that was an absolute lie. Like that the Pfizer vaccine was, the only choice of vaccine. That ivermectin wasn't healthy to use, wasn't safe to use. I mean, the list of what the fact checkers got wrong are at this point insurmountable. There's so many, right, that they got wrong there. So, but why do I want to see information from fact checkers? No, then give me what came out in the news. Give me a source to back it up. Because when you look at the Epstein list, they say that it's false, but if you really do some more research, you find out that no, these were documents from the Epstein trial. They just had been released in 2019, and we're just now starting to release them from mainstream media. They were released, but nobody went and got them. Mainstream media didn't do their job and go and get them. And now somebody else has gone and got has retrieved them and has posted on the internet. And now the internet's saying, oh, well, we had that since 2019. Yeah, but you didn't put it out to the public. So yeah, your fact check says false, that there's no new Epstein things released, but that's really in itself not even true. Like, maybe on the surface, that's what's true. But there's context there. And they have this missing context meter, right? Where they have truth, misleading facts, misleading information, all the way down to red, which is false. Well, they have this thing pinged in the false. But if you look at it objectively, it's not exactly false. It's really just misleading. Like, your fact check is misleading.
That, or they'll interject into the fact check. Like, they'll say, Eric is on the podcast this morning. Well, fact check, Eric is on a podcast, but he's not on the podcast in Ohio. He's on a podcast in North Carolina. Like, no one said anything about Ohio or North Carolina, but they'll put something in there to make sure that that's a false statement, or this was misleading because you left this out, or we want to add context. Well, no, create your own news story. If you want to add context, get your own news sources, show your own receipts, and rebut what's being put out. But that's the problem, is that's what I say. Show me the receipts. If I can put it in my hand and show me what I'm looking at, then it's hard to refute what's physically in your hand, what everybody else can obtain independently. If you can't obtain it independently, then you can't verify it. You can't go, I can't believe anything that anybody, if I can't verify it, if I can't back up your story, if a crackhead that I know has lied to me every single time, but you want me to believe this one time, they're telling the truth this one time. No, because you're not going to get a prosecutor that's going to put him on a stand. You're not going to get you're not going to, because there's no credibility to it. So when here's
the thing about cops breaking down the news, right? Like, we're C students at best. Okay, that's why we were cops. Like, I understand that, but here's what it is. When you're exactly right, when you're when you're a police officer, when you're on the streets, you've got to get this right. Like, some people think that, like, we're not invested in this. Like, do you think for 1 second? And let's take race out of it. Let's say you're a cop in an all-white neighborhood, and you don't have, like, the neighborhood I grew up in. I don't know that there was more than 5 black people that even lived in the neighborhood I lived in. I mean, the community. There just wasn't, so the cops there deal with 100% white people. So let's just talk about those cops, right? White cops, white people. So we don't have any racial debate. Do you think for 1 second that those cops want to get any of those cases wrong and live and have somebody go to jail that doesn't belong there? We don't know those people. When you're a cop, you don't know who you're dealing with.
Nope.
So why would you want on your conscience to know that you put somebody who didn't do something in jail for something they didn't do? It's like it's almost like it's a big fear. It's like you're trying to do more than any detective. That's why people are always like, why didn't you go to detective? It's like, well, because you do more work. You do more detective work as a cop than you really do as a detective, because a detective is only going to cipher through your work. And then he's going to have to go and do the work that you didn't do. So if you're a good officer, the detective should never even need, like, the detective shouldn't need to do any work. If you're a good cop, then you're a really great detective.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've done all that work. So you're going over and beyond to try to find the truth and what happened, right? We said there's three sides to every story. There's your story, there's her story, and then there's what really happened. I do this every day of my life. I mediate people every day of my life, I feel like. Being in this podcast, owning a business, like I'm mediating between bar staff members. I'm mediating between podcast staff members. I'm mediating between other podcast networks. I'm constantly trying to find all sides of the story before I go and say something on a podcast or say something to somebody else that I'm going to have my facts wrong on. And we don't do that as a site anymore, right? Like we just go, I heard you said this about me. Okay, but yeah, out of context, I said that, but like, let's get the whole story.
Or when people are quickly, I always ask, that's the hill you're willing to, that's the hill you're going to go die on. That's why I always ask, why are you, or when people will start defending it, why are you defending from this position? Right. You have nothing in this story, but you are taking a very defensive tone for what? Why? Do you feel it? Like there's nothing in there as a personal. So then it's why are you so defensive? Why you got to get yeah.
So, as a cop, right, we're always going to look at the evidence. And so we're going to question somebody, and then we're not going to just question them, right? So like I say, hey, Mr. Josh, your neighbor over there, unfortunately, has been found in the backyard with a knife in his back. Are you willing to talk with me? Yes, Mr. Officer Tansey, I'd love to talk to you. Okay. How did you know this guy? And then you tell me, well, I met him at a concert. Oh, what was, may I ask what kind of concert was it? I mean, I love going to concerts. What kind of concert was it? I don't know. It was Casey and JoJo, and it was, back in, I was like in October, it was like in the 90s. Oh, so you met him at a concert in the 90s? Was that in the summertime concert series that they do, or is that the wintertime concert series? I don't know. I think it was hot, so it was summertime series. Now, why does that matter to the case? Does that matter to the case? No, but what I can do is I can go and see, was there a Casey JoJo concert that happened in the 90s and in the summer? And if they say, well, Casey and JoJo have never done a concert series in North Carolina, okay, well, why did he lie about that? Or was there some kind of other? So my point being is that we're going back to a source, right? We're like, we're verifying that what we're getting is true through many, many, many questions and techniques. And that's why we ask an abundance of questions, because, okay, yeah, he got this wrong. But now when I question him about the Casey and JoJo thing, now he tells me that it was actually not Casey and JoJo. It was actually such and such band. I just misspoke. That's fine, because in the next one that I looked up, what he said was actually everything was true going forward. So I can see how he kind of fucked up that one thing. But if everything he says is, oh yeah, well, I know I said it was this, but it was that, now I know that Josh is not a good source. Like, this is not, I don't want to be taking information from Josh. Nope. Josh is not putting bricks in my wall of evidence to say that so-and-so might have killed so-and-so. This guy's just talking out of his ass. And that's how I look at the news. I look at the news for Thursdays more recently. What is the totality of this news? What's the context of this news? What is being said? And right now it's impossible to do. So as a cop, I don't even want to do this shit. I'd rather just go back to the weird news, source it that it doesn't matter. It's fun and flirty, but I can't, right? Because this is all so important to us. Like, we want to know about this Chinese spy balloons. We want to know about who we're fucking going to war with, but we can't source any of this information.
And you try to go back to because the other thing is you try to create what you're doing with your questioning is you're creating a baseline. creating credibility with their statements so that they can back them up and they've got weight to them. The news media they've lost all credibility, and instead of, hey, let's try to be more credible, let's show they double down on this. No, we're going to tell you what's the news and you're going to just believe it. And then there's a lot of people in the world that are like, nah, you're telling me that doesn't smell like fish, but I see a fish over there. What's on the other side of that brown paper bag that you're not showing me? And then when you go to research all this stuff, it says something when when you type in 2 words, in every article that you see for the first 2 or 3 pages are verbatim the exact
identical,
same,
with no source,
nothing. So they're creating a figment of their imagination source, and then people are then citing that source, and then people are citing that. So you've got like deep levels of, it's all full of shit.
Right. People don't know anything.
You got nothing here. And
journalism is dead. We need real journalists. Like,
yep.
We need more Project Veritas's on both sides, right? Like,
yep.
We need some people that are willing to go out and like, what happened to objectable, what's the word? Objectionable?
Objective.
We need people that don't have an objective, right? Like, we need objective lists.
Unbiased.
people that are smarter than me, obviously, to go out and literally hunt for the truth. To be the cop that hunts for not your story, not his story. And we used to get this as a cop all the time. Why are you listening to her? Why are you just believing her side of the story? Well, sir, I'm not believing her side of the story, but I'm empathetically listening to her side of the story. I'm hearing every fucking thing that she says, and I'm processing it in my brain because I want to know everything that she has to say, just like I'm about to do with you. And it's not that I'm taking her side because I spent 20 minutes. Would you not want me to spend 20 minutes getting her entire side of the story so that I can get her fallacies, so I can get things that I caught her in a lie, things that didn't make sense, process that stuff, ask her several questions, and then come and do the same to you so I could solve this crime so that you don't go to jail for domestic violence when you really didn't hit her? Like, would you rather me spend if I spend 5 minutes with her, what I'm going to come away with is that you hit her, you choked her, you scratched her, and you've been abusive your whole life. That's what I'm going to get in 5 minutes. But in 20 minutes, what I can get is that you guys have had problems drinking together, that she's, maybe I've hit him once or twice too. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start getting tons of outside information that can give me the totality of the circumstance I'm dealing with, and not just come over here and put you into cuffs for choking and slapping her when, there's a lot more to this story than that. So,
because people like back when they first started, like back in 2015, 2016, when that's when I first was getting out of law enforcement, I was still kind of in it, but I wasn't in it. And people would send me a video like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I go, okay, well, if I took the same thing from a medical procedure and I showed you 30 seconds of a 9-hour surgery and asked you to give me your opinion medically on that 9 seconds of that surgery, even though there was another 8 hours and 58 minutes, I'm going to ask you for your opinion on a couple of seconds of it. I can give you my opinion on it, but that's just my opinion on it. And I'll tell you that there's usually just wait for the rest of the facts to come out. Because every time, because it was one of those, like someone with a cell phone footage, and they're showing the tail end of what led up to 4 to 5, 8, 10, 20 minutes of the situation just getting worse and worse and worse. And then you're getting that last little bit. So we look at things and we want to get the entirety of that context. Because if you just looked at like the Memphis stuff, it's bad. And you look at the totality of it, it gets worse. Like that's what we want. That's what we want to see. Because as cops, we look at that Memphis, we're like, how did you get hired?
Right.
Okay. How did you graduate the academy? Who was your training? Like there's 3 steps right there. Who hired you? Who trained you at the academy? And who is your FTO? Who is your field sergeant? There's at least 4 people there that should be accountable for their actions, but there's nothing.
Right.
We just push things through, and we want to get a knee-jerk reaction to try to solve a bigger problem. And
But I don't think we want to solve the problem. I think we get these
No.
new jerk reactions because we want to create more problems. Right now, anarchy is being sought out by big level government in this country. It is spun by the media. This is real. This is news. This is real news with evidence that I can back up for you. I can show you the evidence. We've shown it on. If you listen to our show in its entirety, if you go back and listen to all the episodes, that's enough evidence to show you that chaos is being created through the media in this country. Misinformation and news is being brought to you by none other than mainstream media. Propaganda is being brought to you by none other than the big government. When you say that big government isn't smart enough, that there isn't a collaboration of people that they could manipulate an entire society, you are mistaken, because the evidence shows that misinformation and anarchy, Russia collusion, right? We were told that Russia collusion was a Donald Trump endeavor, that it was 100% Donald Trump. Now they are saying, the same mainstream media that told you Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, has now come out and said that Russia collusion was this FBI director who has now been indicted. Right?
I haven't seen that he's got indicted yet.
He's not been indicted, but he's been removed. Give me the information on that. But but now all of a sudden, Russia collusion was the FBI the entire time. What about this Nordstrom attack? We were told one thing. All of this. The reason why the news is reporting on UFOs is because it's causing chaos. The reason why the news is no longer reporting on why these guys didn't get hired or who hired, the reason why they're not going in depth, like, would this not be a journalist's dream to go over there and like literally seek out, how are these guys hired? Who hired these guys? Let's expose them really quickly. Let's expose the pasts of these 5 officers. Why was it okay for him to take 6 photographs of this man's lifeless body and send 5 of them out to non-law enforcement related personnel? Why are we taking pictures to begin with at all? Unless you're the sergeant. But more importantly is, why are we sending? So at some point, that shows me, honestly, that if he was that quick, we're talking within 1 minute of this incident, he sent this message out to 6 people. That's not a one-time thing. This has been going on. That's probably something he's seen somebody else do. This cop's only been a cop for 2.5 years. That's learned behavior. So is there a cultural behavior in that police department? These are all things that a real journalist should be going after, and then and then giving a whole piece on how fucked up Memphis Police Department is and who's at fault for it.
Where's the money at?
Let's do that. That's what I'm going to do. As a real journalist, pretend to be a journalist, I'm going to deep dive all of that information for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to deep dive. I'm going to make it my personal goal in life to answer all those questions that I just asked you, to prove to you what real journalism looks like. And it's going to be from a C student with no college education in it. But the news right now is chaos. And right now we're in chaos. The Nordstrom, let's talk about the Nordstrom attack right now. One, we're being told that Navy deep sea divers did this. I don't think you need a deep sea diver to do this. We have fucking underwater drones. Why would you need to take 4 dudes, 5 dudes, plus the handlers, plus the people that are going to monitor on their vitals while they're doing this deep dive? They're the captain of the boat. You're talking involving hundreds of people to do a deep dive like this with explosives, when we could just use 3 personnel and a drone to go do it ourselves.
Or you don't think that those subs have those special operators on them and they can just operate autonomously from the ships themselves?
Right, but you still have to have somebody that's going to monitor their vitals, right? Because that's what we're doing with all these divers. I was on a dive team that recovers dead bodies and things like that. And they've got to go through medical personnel before they get in the water. They got to see medical personnel when they get out of the water. They have ways of tracking like what your body temperature is. All this information is going somewhere. They're not just kicking Navy SEALs. And this is a deep sea dive. Like, this isn't just like, here's a couple oxygen tanks and a little scuba boat. Have fun, boys. No, this is like you're mixing gases together. There's a lot going in this.
Because you got to have
plus
all your buoyancy and all that.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into a dive like this. I mean, you got safety people, you got backup plans, you got a rescue plan. I mean, literally, I'm telling you, if the Navy was doing something like this, you're involving 100 people. If you're putting Navy divers down like that, you've got 100 people involved in this, from captains and majors and SEALs and SEAL team commanders. I mean, that's a lot of people. And maybe they did do that. I think it would be more practical just to say, like, we have a drone, we have a torpedo drone. We'll just drive it into that fucking thing and blow it up.
Why would you want to throw? I mean, it's a lot of assets to you could just throw it on a drone.
Now, there's a lot that can go wrong when you put Navy divers in a thing, and it's like now you've got a timer. Like
you got people that could die. You have to answer for that if something goes sideways.
Yeah, I mean. Be a lot easier just to put a drone, drive that bad boy hundreds of miles under the water, and let that thing go blow up. I mean, like, I might be wrong, but how do they know that it was Navy divers? They don't have a source for that. Where's the source that says 4 Navy divers went down there and blew it up? There's no source out there that says that. Doesn't exist.
Yep,
that doesn't exist.
Because in journalism, they've been able to. Because I'm not a journalist, and I only understand a little bit of this from like the legal aspect of when you're protecting a source. They don't have to give their information up to a certain degree, but at a certain point, they can be compelled to give up their whoever their source is. And at that, like, if you get to a point there, you're either going to have to give up your source. It's either the story's either big enough that depends on it, or the source is that scared that they're not going to do something. Like, if it gets to that point, I think the media is going to be like, people are going to figure stuff out pretty quick.
Yeah, but if we did blow up Nord Stream pipeline, I mean, dude, why is that not, like, why is there no journalists just chomping at the bit to get every little bit of information that they can about this? Instead, it's, fact checkers, fact check this, fact checker, fact check this. Like, it's not, there's no journalism there. There's just unsourced data being put out by somebody called a fact checker.
And it's propaganda at that point.
It is propaganda at that point. Like, this is all 100%. That's the point. That's the news that we're going to talk about. That's the news that you need to talk about this weekend with your friends, is that all of this stuff is distraction. It's all propaganda. Like, this is all confusing propaganda. And the media has proven that it's propaganda because they're saying things like, we don't know if this is extraterrestrials or not. There is no reason on God's green earth that any real, credible news source should be delivering the message that this could be extraterrestrials. This could be Jesus Christ. I mean, like, are we just going to start saying anything with no source? Like, this could be Jesus Christ, actually. Actually, what they saw, when I asked the general, was Jesus Christ in the story? I can't confirm what was in the sky. It's just been said to us by the government that they cannot confirm or deny that Jesus Christ was not in the clouds over Canada that day. Back to you, John. Well, Sally, that's crazy. It's Jesus Christ above. I guess only time will tell. We're not going to know, but I mean, according to this general, it sounds like Jesus Christ could have been over. And was it Jesus Christ that they shot down over South Carolina too? I mean, how many Jesus Christs do we have? And then that's as ridiculous as this UFO theory, this extraterrestrial theory. You're literally taking something as benign as that and just running with it. And that is propaganda, folks. And you're all falling for it.
Because then there's actual footage that has been leaked, or actual footage that come out, or you'll hear like actual pilots that have talked on Joe Rogan, or they'll talked about like the stuff that they've seen. Like, they don't want to talk about what they've seen because they don't want to lose credibility. Because you're a pilot, you're in charge. Like they're in charge of some stuff when you're in, like, whether you're in a fighter jet or whether you're in an airline, there is a lot of money at your fingertips, and there's a lot of stuff behind that. So you don't want to have someone go, do we want to trust him with the controls of this device if he's seeing stuff out there that's not really there? Or if he's talking about stuff that's not really, like, pilot, when they see that stuff, they question it themselves, or they'll ask the other, hey, Do you see this stuff out this window that I'm looking at right now? Do you see that too? Or when they like actual UFO stuff or actual like unidentified, like when that comes out, it's usually under great deal of scrutiny because they're doing the same thing. They're questioning, hey, what
right,
is
but we know that this shit that they shot down over Huron Lake, right? Huron Lake, Lake Huron.
Well, they've a bunch of them. They've shot stuff down over in the Carolinas. They shot stuff down in Michigan. They shot a bunch of stuff down in Canada. They shot stuff down in Alaska.
Right. These are not fucking extraterrestrial aircraft. That's my point. They're not.
And it's not. It doesn't seem like it's just all this. There's you don't accidentally just start releasing all these balloons all at once.
Right. But what I'm saying is like that's the distraction in the news is it a UFO? Is it a UFO? Are these UFOs? Could this be the government's not ruling out that these aren't UFOs? Why would the media need to say any of that when they know for 100% that it's not a UFO from outer space?
Because
it's not sensational. Because it doesn't create. It creates chaos when you say shit like that. It creates a panic, a fear, and that's what this has all been about. It's what COVID was about. So it's about fear and who can rule you under fear. And you don't really know what's going on. The government knows what's going on, but you don't really know what's going on. So trust the government and trust what we're putting out in the news. Although we're not going to source it, you just go ahead and believe it. And you're all doing it. And you're all getting your information from TikTok, from all these other losers like myself who are taking the same unsourced shit and then just regurgitating it Big Bird to Cookie Monster style. But you're still regurgitating things that are not sourced and that they don't have any facts behind them. So you're all doing the same thing. And I'm not going to do it anymore. Like if I can't find the source, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there could be UFOs or extraterrestrials. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that United States blew up the Nordstrom thing. Unless I can find a source that tells me that the Navy sent down deep sea divers, which there is no source that says the Navy sent down deep sea divers to blow up Nordstrom. I promise you there's not.
The only ones I've seen is they have emphatically said that we have nothing involved with it. The White House has said we had nothing involved with it. The CIA has said that they have nothing involved with it.
I don't doubt that we did have something to do with it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we probably didn't do it. But what I'm saying is you can't source that 4 Navy divers, which is what I'm reading right now, went down and blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Who would fucking release that?
Either you're just pulling that out of your ass or you're releasing information that you're probably not allowed to release.
100%. And you think that they're going to put any of these guys on this case that are going to leak shit like that? If they were to put people on this, one, I don't think they would put people on something like that. I think they would use like a drone like torpedo that can travel for a good long distance. I just think that, where there's a will, there's a way. I think putting troops in the ocean on the ground like that is just way too fucking risky. But one, you've got to get something out there. You've got to get a platform for them to leave. So now you're getting a platform very close to a pipeline. Like, and you're not worried about anybody picking that up on radar. You're not worried about anybody fucking tracking you down. Like,
are we using one to justify the other though?
Huh?
Are we using it to justify, okay, well, this is going on over here. We need to put some assets in the area.
I mean, you could. I think it would just be a lot easier to say, like, let's put this boat on this trajectory going to this other location, and we're going to launch a drone off of this thing, and we're going to go blow that fucking thing up. I mean, I don't buy that 4 Navy divers deep sea dove and set timered bombs up. I mean, this is shit that you would read in Red Cell from like the 80s. Like maybe in the 80s they do some cool shit like that. They don't do that shit now.
We have the technology.
And Navy SEALs can't keep their fucking mouth shut for any reason.
No. And we have the technology that you could do that from some hangar in some airbase in Arizona.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like some tech is sitting at a computer screen, just like I'm sitting here, and that's what they're doing is they're flying the drones underneath the water or flying the drones in wherever they're at in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. This is all just all to create confusion and chaos. So right now, when you see something on the media and it says UFO, or you see something that says the U.S. blew up Nord Stream, or this is all, none of this is source news. You have no idea what's true and what's not, unless you can go back to a source and you can read from the source. And if you get all the way back to anonymous leak, I mean, at this point, just fucking That's why I like Project Veritas, because they're literally sending dudes in there with a camera to video camera other dudes saying shit and then giving you that video.
Yep.
Like the Hunter Biden laptop, there's evidence of the Hunter Biden laptop. There's a person who physically held the evidence, who physically looked at it. There's a lawyer who held it, who physically looked at it, and then they talk about it. Like that's stuff that has a source. Like we know the man who had we know the name of the company that he worked for. We know all the details behind the Hunter Biden laptop. That's not a conspiracy. But it's under a fact-checking conspiracy paywall. Like, put that shit with evidence that me as a former police officer that I feel comfortable digesting and did digest in great length and detail on our Hunter Biden laptop episode of Friday Breakdowns on Failure to Stop. That stuff with evidence. That's the stuff that I can get into. But all of this other shit that we were supposed to talk about today has no source, has no credible, other than fact checkers that aren't even fact checking. Real fact checking, like they're not even doing real journalism. I don't really feel like talking about any of the shit that we like. I don't even feel comfortable about talking about the Epstein list. I mean, there is evidence of a flight log list that was released in 2019. Do you have that with you?
The one that I have, whatever I have pulled up, it says PB 2004, 2005. And it looks like it's a copy of something that's been redacted. That's like, it's a copy of a copy of a copy. So some of it's really, really hard to read, but as you go down the list, it's not like a handwritten list. It's like it has a name, then it has a bunch of phone numbers underneath of it, or it has a bunch of contact emails, or it has this is a home, or this is a work, or this is a cell, or this is a USA number. This one says don't use. Like it almost looks like just like a regular Rolodex. But then
here's another thing about this. If you've got a Rolodex of names that have been to Epstein's island, that's not going to say that dude's a fucking pedophile. Because one, I would never have known who Jeffrey Epstein was until this news broke. I would never have known who that guy was. So if you were like, yo, Tansey, the network is taking us to this network party on this private island because they want to talk about maybe funding the podcast, I would be like, dude, that's incredible. Let's go. I'm telling all my friends, I'm telling all my family, I'm going to this guy named Jeffrey Epstein's island. We're going for a party and they might fund our podcast. Like I would have no idea before this who that guy was. Now I might have learned over a course of maybe even a year, right? Like if I hung out with a guy long enough, I'd be like, this guy's kind of a fucking scumbag actually. Like I'm actually very disappointed in this guy. I don't want to work with him. I don't want to be on his network. I don't want him funding my commercials and shit. I'm going to cut ties with this guy. Does that mean I'm a fucking pedophile and I'm a bad guy?
Because at one time you may have had business dealings, but a lot of the names
business dealings for a year before you find out somebody. Harvey Weinstein, for example.
This one, I'm not going to name names off it, but this one says law firm. This one says something retaining a company. This one is a financial service. This one is a museum. This one represents a university. So it could be just it could be just, hey, this is who I need. If something ever happens over here, I need to call Eric. That's who I need to call. That's that person.
Right. Yeah. So but all the right wing guys that are making everybody else look crazy are jumping on this as if the fucking list has been released. This list doesn't mean shit. This list doesn't mean shit. It shows people that have been to the island. Now listen, if you want to question those people, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Hey, Tom Hanks, you're on this flight log, a lot. Like, what is your take? Let's see what Tom Hanks has to say about it. It doesn't mean Tom Hanks is a pedophile. Tom Hanks could have been like, well, he was funding a movie, and we had all of our production. He hosted all of our production parties.
All the meet and greet and some signing, kissing babies, and all that stuff.
Instilled Distilling Company is hosting you guys on the 12th, right? Well, like, do you really know? And I mean, aside, like if it wasn't me that owned it, like you would just be like, oh shit, there's a distillery that's giving us a free freaking place to stay. You might not even like, what if that distillery was like super anti-cop and super anti this, and that like, they were laundering money and all this other crazy shit. They had a child sex ring out the back door. Like you wouldn't know anything a day. What you would think is like, hell yeah, we don't have a lot of money. We want to do this meetup, and these people are donating a meetup spot for us. That's all I knew. I didn't know that they were running a child sex ring out the back door. Like, fuck, man. And I'm sure that that's going to be the case for a lot of people on this list.
But then there's other names that because as I was scrolling down, I'd see a name. I'm like, that name I don't know why that looks, and I'll Google it, and it's this person owns all of this country. Like, oh, okay,
Right.
so I'll scroll down a little bit further. This person owns all of the, like, they're not regular people.
Right. But my point being is that like every single thing on that list, even when the list does come out, you're going to have to take it by a case by case basis. Each one of those is going to have to be questioned. Each one's going to have its own separate trial. Everyone's, you're going to have to do journalism on every single one because, maybe Tom Hanks was involved in a bunch of crazy shit. I don't fucking know. But maybe Alec Baldwin wasn't. So you can't just say like Tom Hanks and Alec Baldwin are on the list. They're both pedophiles. Maybe Tom Hanks was and Alec Baldwin wasn't, or maybe it was vice versa. I don't know. But like, you would have to go like, okay, Alec Baldwin, why were you on Epstein Island on this day? Okay, here's what I did on this day. Here are the people that are with me. That's verifiable information. Blah, 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 blah. But, if I've got, Sally Jesse Jones saying that, well, Alec Baldwin was there and he was with 4 young girls. And then I got Tom Hanks saying, oh, yeah, Alec Baldwin was there on that time. And he used to get there all the time and get massages all the time. Oh, and then we find out that one of these people that got massages says that Alec Baldwin was one. Like, now we can go ahead and start crucifying or, holding the feet to the fire, so to speak, Alec Baldwin. But if it's just Alec Baldwin was there, I never really saw him do anything while he was there. I mean, it was a production party with all the people in the movie Gunslingers that were all there for the same party. Well, I'm not going to hold Alec Baldwin to the torch about being a pedophile if he was literally there with his entire production staff. Like
on the same, so the whatever list I have is 92 pages, and on the same page that has Donald Trump's name has a name of the chief pilot. So the guy that was flying one of the planes around is on the same page. Like, so you've got like UPS account number is also on the same. So it's a Rolodex.
Right.
I don't know, like, other than your name's on it, then you can just explain, hey, this is what my dealings were. And then show you.
That's what I think should happen, right? Like, drop the list and then let's start a real investigation of who and why they're where. And honestly, because this is such a high profile case and we've already proven that the government can't be trusted in this case. I think this is like one of those things where it's like, well, of course this would never happen, but if I'm Tom Hanks and I'm not a pedophile, I'm coming out to the world and saying, look, I was at Epstein's Island 100%. I never fucking got him. I was there for this reason with this group of people, and I didn't get a hand job. So like, I'm definitely not a pedophile. Like, anybody that says anything different is like I would be out in front of all of it. What's scary is that a lot of these guys are doing the opposite. They're doubling down on saying like they weren't there and stuff,
or just being silent.
Right.
Like, yeah, and like we were talking.
Oh, silence is violence. If you don't speak out against racism, then you're a real racist. So it's just about, well, if you're not speaking out against pedophiles and you're being silenced, then you're fucking, can we not have it both ways?
Like you've convicted him, you've convicted Ghislaine or whatever her name is, Maxwell.
Ghislaine.
So you have convictions. I don't know. So that means whatever evidence they have is based on some fact. So if there's a list, just start getting those names.
Right. You're telling me that Ghislaine went through all that and didn't make any kind of a plea deal to drop any fucking names of the big giant pedos that were on that island?
Oh, as soon as it was over, they sealed their case.
Exactly.
It's like the day that it was over, they sealed her case. And as soon as this is how
and we're cool with it, dude. We're fine with that. As an American society, we are not burning the fucking house down. We're not rioting in the streets over this. Like, to me, this is like that. This is the one thing that you protest. This is the one thing. I mean, I peacefully protest. This is the one of the things that you protest. Like, you say, no. That's not how this works, folks. You don't just get to give us this amount of information that there were like real elite people doing some really shady shit on this island, and then you just seal it from the public. However, if a police officer and his teacher wife diddle 150 different cases against them about diddling children, that you release everything with almost zero redactions. Like, that's not how this works.
Like, well, because as soon as you start to get close, you'll lose your job. Because the Virgin Islands district attorney, she lost her job beginning of the year Right when she started bringing her new charges and new investigation, she's removed from her position.
Show us I mean, that case is one of the biggest red flags that this nation is completely and utterly fucked. The fact that we are all okay with that case, knowing that those monsters did monstrous things to little kids as young as 12 years old, and we are fine with the government saying you don't get to see any of this. It's too bad. There's too much. You wouldn't be able to comprehend it, so we're just going to shut it all down, which is exactly what happened. There's no investigation going on, right?
Not because the one that was going on for the Virgin Islands, that is kind of just, I haven't seen that it's moved anything after they fired her.
Right. So I mean, so what does it take? What does it take? Like, you want to go home and you have your convictions, right? Like you've got your Punisher skull on your window, right? You've got your snake with the fucking don't tread on me shit, right? Like this is why I don't put this stuff on there, because I'll tell you right now, like I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. I got 5 fucking kids, dude. I'm not the guy that I got too much on my plate. But and that's why I don't put the stickers on my car. That's why I don't walk around with the t-shirts on. If you walk around with a t-shirt on, you got the sticker, you're the fucking guy. You're putting that target on your car and you're saying, well, I don't care that my kids are in this car. It's more important to me to know people where I stand on this. Well, if it's so important to understand, why aren't you protesting? What good is your fucking sticker? Get out there and make some shit happen. If you're the guy, if you're that guy, go be that guy. Take 10 of your buddies down and start protesting in front of a building. Call me, I'll go. But I got 5 kids and 4 businesses around. I'm not that guy. I'll admit it. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that'll talk about it on the podcast. But like, what's funny to me is that the guy will show up when the police, when there might be some kind of police corruption. We'll show up for that. Sure, we'll show up for that. We'll show up if it's about aborting babies, which is a high profile debate, right? Like there is a legit debate on both sides of the abortion thing. There are 2 sides to be heard on that case, rightfully so. But here you have no, there is no one way or the other. There is, this happened and it's egregious and we're choosing not to do a damn thing about it. We're choosing, like, so where is this guy or girl that puts together the abortion protests and these marches? Where is that person for the Epstein shit?
Or as soon as someone gets arrested in it, you go, they're going to get Epstein. And if you say they're going to get Epstein, like,
I mean, they're saying it in the chats now. Tansey's going to get Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it's a moniker that you're going to die of a mysterious and sudden death after you start talking about stuff.
Right. So it's like it's like what I guess I should do, being a micromanager, I guess, is I should find the person that held the last that pulled the permit for the last protest for whatever bullshit reason. Because I feel like if you protest one thing, then it doesn't matter. You're a protester. Great. Like if you protested anything, like I want gay rights or I don't want gay rights, it doesn't matter. You're a protester. You've protested once. You're a protester. I need to call that guy that's a protester and say, yo, you want to protest something like that we can all agree on? Like around the entire country, we can agree that this is fucked up. Like, can you do that? It's like if I need a caterer, I'm going to call a caterer. Right now, I need a protester. Is there a protesting company out there that I can call? Hey man, I need a protest.
Need an
instigator. Can you put this together? Is it George Soros? Anybody got George Soros' number? No, he's on that list a lot. So
there is a couple Soroses on this list for sure.
Right. Anybody out there a protester that's pulled a permit for a protest? I'd love for you to call me if you're a person who's pulled a permit for any of your bullshit church protests or any of your bullshit politics protests. And I call them bullshit because I think everything is bullshit compared to this large what's going on with this. To me, Trump's everything. I think protecting the kids trumps. I think if there's one thing that I would even protest for, and I won't protest anything. I don't have time for it. Man. Like, let the fucking world handle its own problem. But if you were like, yo, Eric, be here at this time because we are protesting this Epstein thing, I'd be there in a heartbeat. I'd probably get on an airplane and fly it to you. If somebody was like, let's get the government to release and declassify this trial, this case, because we need to see the totality of this case because it's that serious. I'm all in, baby. I do not trust the government at all when it comes to this case. I think they are covering up stuff.
Do you think it goes as deep as they're willing to cover it up? Because if it gets too far, our entirety of our basis of society will collapse.
Yeah. But I don't think it'll collapse. I think we're smarter than that. I think that what we would do is imprison everybody that has anything to do with it, which is all your big players. And those people think that they're so important that life can't go on. It's like that guy that's really good at his cop job, but he keeps fucking around because he thinks that there's no way. They can't fire me from Lowe's because, without that, who's going to stock these shelves? I stock more shelves than anybody at this Lowe's. Like, it's that same guy that thinks he has the guy comment, like as if that business gives two shits about him. That's what these people think. They think that the world can't rule without them. That's not true. The show always goes on. It's like producers, like, I'll quit. Okay, then fine, quit, dude. Quit. The show's going to go on. There's 1,000 producers out there.
If you think that you're that important, walk away and see what happens tomorrow.
You're not that important, baby. You're not that important.
It'll still, and yeah.
I was Officer of the Year, fired the same year. So, and forgotten about 2 years later by everybody. Like now I'm just a figment of it. I went from being the legend, everybody knowing my name, being liked and hated, being loved and hated, but everybody knew my name to, I never heard of Tansey. I went from, being on the top 25 iTunes charts with a police podcast, everybody knowing my name and everybody knowing that it's still my name by like, no, I've never heard of Failure Stuff. You will be replaced very quickly. And all of these dudes on that list can be replaced just as quickly. And I think that's part of the problem. I think they think that they're so big and that they're so cool that the society will collapse. I don't think it'll collapse. I think there are people that are better that, that have been, the Drew Brees of this world who, were second tier quarterbacks for a very long time. Then when they get their time to shine, baby, they're going to go places. So, but if you're that protesting guy, if you've ever pulled a permit for a protest, I'm telling you right now, I will hype it. I will get Brandon Tatum. I will get Mike the Cop. I will get every influencer. I will call the Hodge twins. I will call Drinking Bros. I will call everybody and let them know that you're putting together a protest for the Epstein thing. I will go that far and I'll show up. But I don't have time to coordinate that because I don't know how to do it. And I'm not gonna waste that time, which is why I don't put all the stickers and shit on my car. Does it make me a bad person?
No. My buddy my bracelet I wear for, he used to tell me all the time, the people that have all that shit on their car, they never did anything.
They never do anything ever. And listen, I don't want to be accused of that, but I'm not saying, listen, I'm telling you right now, call me lazy. I'm too lazy to coordinate a protest. I don't know how to coordinate a protest. I've never pulled a permit for a protest. If I pull the permit, then I'm going to have to be the face of the protest. I don't want to be the face of that protest. I have 5 kids who are more important to me that I have basically sworn my own oath to protect my kids. So I'll play behind the scenes for you, but no, I'm not going to put my family at risk. And I'm not going to be the face of a protest. I don't have the balls. I don't have the courage. I'm not that guy.
For this thought process, though, instead of it being, there's no one face. The face of the protest is the protest itself. And but
whoever pulls that permit is going to be the name heard around the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard around the world. And it's going to be the most hated person around the world. And it's probably going to get killed rather quickly. So you've got to have that guy that's like the real deal that says like, this is literally it says, this is the hill I'm going to die on.
You need an Elon.
Sure. If Elon's not involved in the same kind of buffoonery.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, you need that guy. You need that guy that wants to be a Navy SEAL, but doesn't want to do it for the guy probably doesn't exist in the Navy SEAL realm. But the guy that wants to be special operations, but could not do special operations because of he had asthma and they just will not let him in. some crazy bullshit like that. But that dude that really does have that mindset, like that doesn't have the kids and doesn't have family, but like really wants to be a selfless servant to the government, needs to go pull that permit. Because he's the dude that's going to die. But fucking, it's the truth, man. That's the truth. I mean, yeah, I call me a coward. I'll take it. I'll take that one on the chin, dude. I'll take that one on the chin. I am that big of a coward. I'm not worth losing my kids and putting my family through that kind of hell and ruining my kids' lives. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not your guy. I'm not your guy.
That should tell you how big of a that's just how big of an issue this is.
Yeah. It's that big of an issue. It's if you're that guy, if you're that guy that knows how to pull a permit or has a time that wants to pull a permit, I promise you, if you're the guy that pulls that permit, how could that not be the biggest protest that's ever existed? I can't think of anybody that would not go to that.
Because who would you have? You have to protest. Because then you have to. So if we're thinking more now, if we're getting organized here, we're going to think this out loud. You got to protest because you're not going to go to McDonald's to complain about your Pizza Hut problem. So you got to go to the source. So which district court or wherever that is.
They did the 1,000,000-man prayer in Washington, D.C., where they tried to get 1,000,000 dudes to go pray over D.C.
Yeah, but
1,000,000 guys. And I mean, I went to it when I was a kid. This pray for there was thousands, tens and tens and tens of thousands of people. I don't know how many people there was. I don't remember. I was like 13.
You could bring them to DC, then you can get all your congressional reps to sign on to it. There you go. There's your
like
DC.
You say, hey, like on this date and this time, we're protesting in DC because we want to see the Epstein. We want to see everything unredacted. Obviously the piece, and I guarantee you, everybody would show up, dude. Like, you think the same guy, like everybody that went to SHOT Show, all those guys would definitely rally around you. All of them. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. But why hasn't it been done, right? Like if a whole bunch of truckers will get on a convoy, you don't think those same truckers would go on a convoy to DC to protest the Epstein shit? The Epstein shit's more important to me than the fucking COVID shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We need to.
But it can't happen because you'll get killed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of invincible. Pain. I'm impervious to pain now. You can't torture me.
Can't torture me.
What are you gonna? You're gonna cause me more pain than I can think of.
You're too close to failure to stop, and I don't want failure to stop to be put into. Yeah, I don't want this to be a failure to stop thing because then somehow it'll come back to me. Founder of failure to stop puts together a protest. No, I didn't, bitch.
Well, now they don't have to come back. Former cop. You got to throw that in there.
Yeah. It's these are crazy times that we live in, man. But like, there's definitely anarchy in this country.
Yes.
And it's caused by mainstream media. And I don't want to be a part of it. That's why I ruined today's show. I apologize for ruining today's show. But I refuse, man. I refuse to regurgitate shit that hasn't been sourced. And and maybe we do need people that go and regurgitate mainstream media in a way that we can understand it, and power to those people who do that. There are influencers out there that are really great. Brandon Tatum's a good example of taking something that he physically sees in the news, plays the clips, and then he reacts to it. Now, see, that's substantial to me. Whoopi Goldberg said this, and here is my reaction. I can get behind that. Like, that's not the influencer I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, so today the Nordstrom pipeline was just said that the Americans blew it up. Coming from an anonymous source, dude. Coming from an anonymous source. 4 Navy divers went and blew up the Nordstrom. Why would you say 4 Navy divers? Like, you think that even if there was a leak that they would say 4 Navy divers? Why wouldn't it be 6? Why wouldn't it be 2? Why wouldn't it be an unmanned drone? Like, you think that that's the information they're going to give you? They wouldn't just say Navy divers or the Navy. They wouldn't even say Navy divers, bitch. They'd say the Navy was dispatched. The U.S. military was dispatched. I mean, the Navy, there's more divers than just the Navy. The Air Force has a dive team. The Army has a dive team.
Well, we have pictures of them recovering the spy stuff off of Carolina, and they didn't release all those names. There's pictures of like 20 or 30 people.
Right.
They didn't release all those names.
Right. So, Yeah, Tactical says, "Go ahead and try and give me an OD, bitch. I couldn't even do it myself." Tactical dude, you couldn't even hang. You couldn't even hang Tactical dude. All that freaking hanging himself masturbation, plus all the trying to kill themselves, plus like the dude probably microdoses roofie, so he can't even be roofied. Like that's how I imagine my Tactical dude. Just
Overachiever.
invincible. He's like, they start to try to hang him, like self-hanging him, and he's just like jerking off. He's like, man, I've been doing this since I was fucking 13, bitch.
You need to tie that's a weak knot. You need to tie the knot a little bit better.
This one's gonna make me come real hard.
He's heckling them while they're torturing him.
Yeah, right. He's like, look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes, bitch. Drew Breezy says distinguishing fact from opinion is crucial. It is, I think, I don't mind breaking down news on Thursdays. It's fun. This is fun stuff for me to talk about. But literally everything that you and I organized to talk about today, none of it has any substance. All of it is speculation. All of it comes back to some bullshit source. And I know that you prepared for this, and I want to apologize to Deadlock Media because you spend so much time researching this stuff and developing this stuff. And I'm so sorry that I shit on your parade today. And I'm kind of sorry to the fans. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but like, is this what we want to be? Is fair to stop last call? Is that what we want to do? Do we want to add to the chaos and the confusion? I think instead of doing bullshit like this, we go back to the weird news. Now, if we have something of substance to back it up, then let's go ahead and back it up, right? Like let's put the news out there that can be sourced. I'm tired of reading these articles that you get to the end and have no way of backing this up except some fact checker, fat fucking neck bearded, open mouth breathing window licker fact checked through the same Wikipedia articles that you and I are reading that are also not fact.
Or it's behind a paywall, or it's filled with ads. When you like when we try to source things, like one of the things that we were going to talk about was the train accidents or the train derailments and things. When you go back to try to source things for like Google has an active role in what comes up when you type in something, you push enter, they are sourcing every bit of what you're going to see on the other end of that. So when I want to see, this is what I want to see, I have to get very
started out with a simple
specific
question. It was a simple question that set me off today, Josh. It was, how many train derailments have there been?
Yep.
Or does this happen every day? Or is this that? And then you tried to Google it really quickly, and we were again bombarded by 5 pages of fact-checking bullshits about train derailments and taking the real facts and then misleading them to the fact checkers' facts. Then the other fact checkers from the Republican side are trying to put, it's all chaos. It's all anarchy, and none of it is viable. I want to know how many train derailments happen, because if you said, Eric, 375 train derailments happen every year. Okay, well, that's more than 1 train derailment a day, every single day. That's all you need to tell me. Because I could say 3 trail derailments happened, spilling poisonous things in 3 different states. Yeah, but there's literally a train derailment that spills something almost 1.5 times every single day. So that news in itself does not bother me. So conspiracy, shut down. Give me another piece of evidence. Okay, out of those 375 derailments, only 2 per year have dangerous contaminants released in the air, and we've had 3 in 1 week. Now we're on to something. Now we have a source piece of information that I can say, now that, my friend, is very weird. Oh, but out of those 3, only 1 was really, really bad. The other one was actually pool chlorine, which actually dissipates and does cause acid rain, but it's only going to turn your pools green. And it's like, and it's produced in Arkansas, and it's been making the same path for fucking hundreds of years. And chlorine isn't really used for anything. Like nobody's going to die from this. Is it toxic? Yeah. But is anybody going to die from it? No. Now we're back to ground zero. You've taken bricks out of my wall, because now I'm saying, okay, there were some bricks that this could be a conspiracy. Oh, but you've taken the bricks back away because it's not a conspiracy, because chlorine doesn't really do shit. You know what I'm saying? But that we can't even Google those facts, because fact check 300 and range. But however, it's like, just give me the fucking numbers.
Or we change the definitions.
Well, that was the problem. That was what happened, actually, right? It's like they changed the definition to a train derailment and gave us 2-3 sources of bullshit that I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't even want to go into this right now. I'm just going to rage on the show.
Yep, because when I saw how many happened per day, or because it's an average of like 1,700 a year, which sounds astronomical. But then what do they call? What do they consider a derailment? If it skips the track, it's considered a derailment. What is a derailment? Is it 30 cars on fire in the middle of a city? So then
It was like the statistics where they were counting uses of force, and that the uses of force were up 300%. Yeah, but you included handcuffing as a use of force to retard the fucking number.
Yep.
Like, so therefore you put bricks on a wall, but now you've got to take those bricks out of the wall because handcuffing is not a use of force. Technically it is. You're forcing somebody into handcuffs, whether they don't want to be in handcuffs. But I could argue
someone
that,
not to do something was a use of force.
You know what I'm saying?
Physically
so the number is not a real number.
Yeah.
You can't say use of force are up 300%, but then you've added in handcuffing as a use of force. Like that number doesn't, the number is no real. You've retarded the number. And that's what's happening with the whole train derailment thing. It's like, okay, like, is this a conspiracy theory? Was this an attack? Yes or no? Well, we can't even tell you that because we're just going to retard all of the numbers to create absolute chaos. That's my point, guys. Like, this is absolute chaos and anarchy, and it's being force-fed to us by mainstream media, was being regurgitated by schmucks just like me and Josh Lega on these fucking retarded podcasts, on fucking retarded TikTok videos and Instagram videos when nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about because it's all fucking chaos. And we're all okay with it, dude, and I'm not okay with it anymore. I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with digging through numbers out. Like, I'm only okay with real journalism from here on out. I will only come on Last Call and give you real fucking journalism. Did a ballet director rub feces on another man's face? Yes or no? And that answer is fucking yes. And there's not a single fact check article about it. There's a man that's given an apology saying, I'm sorry that I got mad at a critic and I showed up to this event and I rubbed dog shit in his face. And I did it because I saw dog shit on the ground and I blacked the fuck out and I rubbed shit in his face. And there's the evidence. Here's the interview. Here's the motherfucker saying it. That's fucking news. That's fucking news. Not that some goddamn general said that there's a fucking extraterrestrial life form out in space, maybe or may not be, and then every motherfucker on the interwebs saying that there's aliens or Jesus Christ floating above us. This is obnoxious. This is our whole fucking world has gone to utter chaos and anarchy to where we have zero source of any kind of truth. We don't have truth about the Mar-a-Lago thing. We don't have any truth about Biden's documents. We don't have truth about Epstein. We don't have truth about Nordstrom. We don't have truth about Ukraine. We don't know what the fuck's going on in China. And if you watch India news from BBC or India, they're saying completely different shit about what's going on with Ukraine and Russia that makes absolutely no sense when you've been listening to the propaganda that we've been put out. So are they lying? Or are we like, what? The truth of the matter is that there is chaos going on in this country, and it's being derived from mainstream media and every other schmuck just like me out there. And as of today, I'm fucking done doing it. I'm fine with Last Call, but I'm not going to dive down this bullshit rabbit hole of fucking chaos and anarchy that's being put upon us by the mainstream media. And I know it's fun and it's funny and it's goofy and it is fun to talk about. And on Night Shift, we want to talk about the conspiracies. Having fun and joking around about conspiracies is one thing, but when you have a show called Last Call that's bringing you all the other news, like, I feel like then I should bring you real news, and I should at least attempt to be some sort of at least I should make a half-assed attempt at being a journalism. And not just regurgitating, like, I don't know, the other 10,000 fucking influencers out there. And I'm sorry, dude, this set me off. Like, this is pissed off Eric Tansey today because I feel like Deadleg spends way too much time doing way too much research on shit that isn't fucking real. And that would piss. And I can only do that for so long. I have a very busy life. I want this thing to happen in April 12th. I want it to be perfect. I want the food to be right. I want the band to be right. I want the meetup. I want the people that are paying money to fly in here and be here. I want everything to be perfect. I want the greeting at the airports to be perfect. I want the cars and the shuttles to be perfect. But no, what I'm doing is I'm spending fucking 10 hours of my time researching shit that isn't even fucking real. And then I'm regurgitating that same bullshit to you in your cop car or in your first Spider Me wagon. Rant over. I'm sorry. I just fucking lost my cool. But I mean, it needs to be, it needs
to be said. Nobody else is saying it.
This is bullshit, dude. This is absolute bullshit. That whole train thing, the whole train derail, the fact that you can't get a fucking number of train derailments, a real number. This is how many trains derail. Point blank period. I don't need anything else. I don't need or what I need is, here's how many train derailments, and then here's how many are skip tracks. Because a skip track is not a train derailment, and nobody that is looking up train derailments is looking up skip tracks for minute seconds. It's like nobody that's researching how many uses of force are out there cares about handcuffing. That's not the purpose of the Nobody is researching that. What they're researching is how many cops throw fucking hands, pepper spray fucking people, or slam somebody on the ground. Use of force starts when somebody gets tossed on the ground or gets tossed up against something, and to effect, like, unreasonably, right? I feel like if you have to put somebody up against something to handcuffing, you can start your use of force right there.
Once you physically have to take control of something.
That's good data. But adding handcuffing just in on its face and putting that in the number, and then having people debate about that over 5 pages of information so that you just say, you know what, I'm not even fucking researching this anymore. That is what mainstream media is doing to you guys, and we're all okay with it. And now we're all just doing it together. My favorite influencers are doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'll turn this back into Fun 40 news, or news that we have substance, and that we have news that we can say, here is the evidence. Here is the evidence. Here's where it came from. The evidence isn't Fox News and an anonymous source. That's not news. Here is a signed document by the U.S. Navy that says they put 4 divers down and they blew up Nordstrom. Right? I don't know. We've gone way over today. We've gone 100 hour and 20 minutes. If you want to support the show, if you want to see this keep going, because I know that today we did not, we probably did not get any ad agencies. Definitely, I'd love to do some more research. I'd love to actually hire real journalists that I hand select like a police department. And that takes a lot of money. But, for the Memphis thing, that is one thing. That's a project that I am going to start with this team. I'm going to ask the team if they want to do it. But we're going to dive into this Memphis thing, and I want to do some real journalism, and I want to have a story out. I don't care if that story takes me till the summer or till Christmas, but I want to find out who hired these guys. I want to figure out what was their careers. We did it with Dennis Perkins. We were able to see his polygraph test. So you can't tell me that by law you can't give me that information, because New Orleans gave us that information, or Louisiana gave us that information. So I want to know the same thing. I want to know who hired these guys. I want to know, what did they do? What was their polygraph? What were the handwritten notes on their polygraph? We got it for Dennis Perkins. Why can't we get it for these guys? And let's put together, what's the problem here? That's how you fix a problem. That's how you fix police brutality, is figuring out why, who, what, where, and how. What led to these 5 cops pulling a guy over and beating the living breaks off of him to death? Let's do some real journalism here on Failure to Stop. Let's show that it can be done.
I'm down.
Let's do it. Guys, this is Dead Leg Media and Eric Tansey from Failure to Stop podcast, the podcast that was canceled for going off the rails. I don't even know what I said in the last 30 minutes. I blacked out. Sorry, not sorry. So until next time, guys, guns up and giddy up. Cheers.